Self-Employed is no longer. So what have they replaced it with? The answer is QuickBooks Solopreneur. But what is this version all about, and is it right for you? In this video, I'm going to be breaking down all the differences between the old Self-Employed version and this new Solopreneur version, so you can decide if it is the right thing for you. If you're new to this channel, hi, I'm Jamie Trull, CPA and Profit Strategist, and on this channel, we're talking all things small business finances, including the tools and resources you need to run a healthy and profitable small business, so please make sure to subscribe. Now, if you're already on QuickBooks Self-Employed, you get to keep your subscription. This is not an automatic changeover to QuickBooks Solopreneur, at least not right now, so Self-Employed does still exist for those who are already on a subscription. But for anybody new signing up, the only option you're going to have now is either one of the QuickBooks Online products, which I talk about in other videos, or you're going to be able to choose QuickBooks Solopreneur. Now, if you've watched any of my previous QuickBooks videos, you probably know that QuickBooks Self-Employed has not been my favorite QuickBooks product. I highly recommend QuickBooks Online, and I have some special discount codes down below if you want to jump into QuickBooks Online. But has QuickBooks Solopreneur changed my opinion? Let's jump into it. Now, as I scoured the internet to try to figure out what the differences were between these two versions, I found this on the QuickBooks website, which honestly wasn't super helpful. It just says that the difference is Solopreneur is built on the success of Self-Employed. It's intended for one-person businesses looking to organize and grow their business. It offers easier setup and improved transaction management experience, along with added flexibility and productivity tools. So that sounds great, but also a little vague. So I wanted to know more. After a little bit of digging, I did find a full feature comparison that went through the differences in these versions and also included Simple Start, which is the lowest version of QuickBooks Online. So I thought this was really helpful, and I'm actually going to post this comparison in the link below so that you can check it out yourself. Now, I'm not going to go through each and every one of these things because honestly, it would be super boring, but I'm going to tell you what I noticed as being the key feature differences between the two, and some of them are good and some of them are not so great. Now, when I looked at this feature comparison, the first thing that jumped out at me, because I'm an accounting nerd, is the fact that there is apparently the ability to do double entry bookkeeping within the Solopreneur version, which was not accessible in Self-Employed. And if you watched my video on that, that was something that I took a big issue with because of the fact that that's true bookkeeping. So I'm an accountant, I'm an accounting nerd, I know this is what I do, but the reason that double entry bookkeeping is so important is that it also allows you to track your balance sheet. So if you're doing true double entry bookkeeping where each transaction has two different impacts on your financial statements, that's essentially what double entry bookkeeping is, right? Then you should also have the ability to run a balance sheet. So that got me super excited. That is a really big improved feature if that's true. However, when I looked here, I saw that you still, even though they're apparently using double entry bookkeeping, you don't get a balance sheet, which to me doesn't really make a lot of sense. I don't know what the purpose of having double entry bookkeeping is if you're not actually having a balance sheet that you're going to be able to get from it. So that still is a drawback, just like it was for Self-Employed, although maybe they will improve this in the future. Now, a quick aside on who needs a balance sheet. Personally, I think it's good for any business to have, but you definitely want to have a balance sheet if you have significant fixed assets that you're purchasing, right? If you're purchasing equipment, anything like that, that's something you're going to want a balance sheet for. If you have loan or debt balances at all, you definitely are going to want to have a balance sheet to be able to track those amounts, or if you have inventory. So those are things that are really critical. And if you need any of those things, then Solopreneur is not right for you. You're definitely going to want to check out QuickBooks Online instead. Now, in going through this list, I noticed a couple of other pros that were positive changes from Self-Employed to this new Solopreneur version. So one of those is the fact that you can now accept in-person payments. So if you're running a small side hustle or business and you need to collect cash from somebody, then you can actually do that using your app. You can have a QR code that they can scan and be able to easily pay you. So I thought that was a good improvement. This also has new sales tax capability, which I think is really great, especially if you are selling some products and things like that, and you need to collect and remit sales tax on those sales. I think that goes hand in hand with being able to accept payment as well. I think that that is a great feature. Now, this isn't right for somebody who's doing tons and tons of product sales. Probably you're going to want something more robust, or if you're making those sales, say, online and they're being sent to various different jurisdictions. But if you're making sales in person, then this could be a helpful tool to help you collect sales tax. And the other improvement I really liked is the fact that you can now actually send estimates. So if you are maybe a contractor or you need to estimate a job in some way, you can send those estimates directly through QuickBooks. And that is a great improvement. You can still send invoices just like you could before with Self-Employed, but now you also have the ability to send estimates to your prospective customers. Now, if you're anything like me, I like to actually really get my hands dirty in a system and understand how it works. So I actually signed up for a free trial of QuickBooks Solopreneur so that I could check it out. You can come in with me and I will kind of demo some of how this works. And I'm also going to point out some of the positives and some of the cons that come in this Solopreneur version. So I've put in a couple of test transactions, but just like other QuickBooks, you can set this up to integrate with your bank accounts, with your credit card accounts, which is really great. It helps to automate things, which is fantastic. But if you come in here, you're going to see this dashboard just like anything else. And I love that it does have a nice, robust dashboard with some good analytics. I think that's important for really making decisions in your business. I am a nerd about knowing your numbers. So I actually like this look and feel. It feels very similar to QuickBooks Online for me. And under Get Paid, that's where you're going to be able to see where you send invoices and estimates. Again, that's a great feature that they have added. Now coming in here to customers and goals, I kind of like the ability to set some goals, right? That isn't something that I've seen before. So that seems kind of neat to be able to get a snapshot of your goals and of your specific customers. I think that's a good feature. But here is where I start taking issue again. When we get into reports, you'll notice the only reports that you have access to are very, very limited. So you have some profit and losses, right? You have a few sales breakdowns that you can get. But again, it's extremely limited. If you go to this same tab in QuickBooks Online, again, depending on the version that you have, I use QuickBooks Online Plus, and I have a multitude of reports that I can run. And again, as a numbers nerd, I love the ability to do that. The fact that there is no balance sheet is just killing me here. And it really limits who this is a good fit for. If you have a S Corp or a C Corp, this is not going to work well for you because you're going to need that balance sheet. If you have a partnership, this is really, really meant clearly for those who have side hustles, or they are 1099 contractors, or they have very, very simple business models with no employees. That is who QuickBooks Solopreneur is for. If you are not that, then you probably want to be looking at QuickBooks Online instead. Now for taxes, you're going to be able to really easily see what's going on, what your deductions are. It's going to show you the tax categories, and you're even going to have things like vehicle expenses where you can track mileage, home office. And what I found interesting is that you can put in business assets, but again, you don't have the ability to actually run a balance sheet. So that seemed kind of strange that we are tracking business assets, but we aren't actually able to pull a balance sheet out of the system. I know I'm harping on that a lot, but I just don't understand why they couldn't incorporate that within this. So that's the great thing. And then you can also put in your estimated tax payments. It's going to estimate those out as well, just like it did in the self-employed version, which again, take the estimates with a grain of salt, but it can be really helpful when you're figuring out what estimated taxes you need to be paying quarterly. Now, in poking around in here, I did notice a few things that were not included that are fairly key. And one of those is receipt capture. That's something that was super popular in the self-employed version. It meant you could actually take a picture of your receipt. It automatically attached it to the expense within your QuickBooks, and you could keep everything organized. It's one of the benefits of having a bookkeeping software like this is to keep your supporting documents in order. That is gone from Solopreneur, at least right now. If you want that, you're going to have to do QuickBooks Online in order to be able to get that receipt capture functionality. That is, I think, just a huge dagger to those who were using this. If you want to switch from your old self-employed to Solopreneur, I would consider this as one reason you might not want to make the switch. The other thing I noticed that isn't in here is tags. And I love tags because it can help me organize my expenses and my income, and just to be able to see it a little bit differently where you can run reports with tags. They did have tags in Self-Employed, but they're not in here. So if you want to be able to see your data in different ways, it's going to be a lot harder from Solopreneur. This is really going to be just more of an overview that you're going to get versus being able to dive deeper into the data. And there are also some features that weren't in Self-Employed that I took issue with and still aren't here in Solopreneur, unfortunately. So one of those is customization. There is so little customization of things like your chart of accounts, right? The accounts that you're actually recording those income and expenses to. You can't customize. It's basically going to determine what your chart of accounts is when you set it up and tell it what kind of business you have. And those are going to be your options. You can't go in, change them, add different accounts, move things around. There's just very little customization. It's really geared more towards taxes and being able to see things from a tax perspective versus really kind of putting on your CFO hat and being able to get access to the data in the way that it makes sense to you. So if you want access to more customization and more reporting, that's going to be something that you would need QuickBooks Online for. Again, check out my link in bio for the best deals on QuickBooks Online. And the other issue that I take with this is it doesn't really work if you're planning to grow your business. It's not great for that because it really has limited functionality and there's not an easy way to upgrade this subscription to one that'll work for you if you say hire employees or have more complex needs, right? You're gonna have to move to a completely different system. So even if you stay and want to use QuickBooks Online, you're going to have to download all of this out of the system and get it uploaded back into the new system. And it is not an easy process. Unlike when you are growing within the QuickBooks Online different versions, you can go from Simple Start to Essentials to Plus. And it's just a click of a button and you get those added features. But this is a totally separate platform and they really do not set it up to be easily be able to migrate. Same thing is true even between Self-Employed and Solopreneur. So if you're already on Self-Employed and you're thinking about moving to Solopreneur, it's not a super easy process right now, which seems a little bit silly. It seems like they should have an easy way for those who choose to migrate to the new version to do so. But currently, as of the recording of this video, they do not. So what's my overall verdict on QuickBooks Solopreneur? I would say that it is a decent product, still has some things that I really wish that it incorporated that would make it so much better of a product, but for a very specific subset of entrepreneurs, it could make sense. And this is specifically geared towards solopreneurs, hence the name, which can include side hustlers or those who are 1099 contractors and just need to make sure you're keeping up with your expenses, right? That's who this is really for. If you have a small business that you're trying to grow and scale, then I probably wouldn't recommend Solopreneur. Even just starting out, you might as well just start out in a lower level of QuickBooks Online instead. In general, I think that's going to be a better fit for you. Now, if you are self-employed, solopreneur, and you're like, you know what, I don't know, this really still seems like a bit of a glorified spreadsheet. Well, there are other ways that you can do this that are more cost effective. So for you, if you are a super simple business model, I do have my own profit and loss template that can do more customization than what you can do within your QuickBooks Solopreneur subscription, and is going to be a lot cheaper overall because you're not going to have a monthly ongoing cost. You can buy it one time for less than about 3 months of a subscription and be able to use it ongoing into perpetuity. So if you want to check that out, go to jamietrull.com/profit loss. Additionally, if you are realizing now that you probably need a higher subscription level of QuickBooks Online, definitely go check out my version comparison that I did a couple of weeks ago. That video is on the screen right now. So thanks for watching. If you have questions about these different QuickBooks levels, definitely make sure to put them in the comments. And I would love it if you liked and subscribed, and I'll see you next time.